We need to hide. We're not gonna hide.
He was dead. Executed. So many years later, and yet it feels like yesterday. I've seen the accounts that have been written in the years since his death, and they're mostly true, but those Gospels are missing details. They don't have my story, which I've kept secret until now. We had precious little time to take care of the body of our teacher. The Sabbath day of rest began at sundown, so proper burial rituals would have to wait until Sunday morning. The followers of our teacher were scattered and scared. We all feared for our lives. The disciples left to bide their time in hiding, but I insisted on staying nearby.
I'm not going.
For I had a horrific secret. And so 3 women defied the wishes of the disciples, the Sanhedrin, and the Romans, and kept a vigil near the tomb during that first Easter weekend. Mary, mother of the teacher, who didn't understand why I insisted on staying, would never allow the possibility that I might suffer greater grief than her own. And Salome, a former prostitute that had become a believer, and a dear friend. And me, Mary of Magdala, the closest of the teacher's companions. I shared with him a dark and disturbing secret.
Is there anything that you want to tell me? Did you hear about Lazarus? Yeah. It was a miracle. No. It wasn't. What? The teacher went to his tomb.
I told Salome about the secret of Lazarus that the teacher and I had shared. How could anyone have known that the dead were mysteriously rising from their tombs and walking? People thought it was a miracle, and word about Lazarus quickly spread. They filled in the confusing parts with their own interpretations.
Why haven't you told me this? Is that why we're here?
For the teacher, it was a shameful secret that had become legend.
What does it have to do with us? I've heard there's more.
For me, it had become my greatest fear.
Moses.
Because I didn't know what kind of death caused the dead to walk.
Who's coming, Mary?
Or what types of horrors they might bring.
We do. Oh, no. Walking dead. Dead.
Even as they retreated, I knew my fears were realized. It became clear to each of us how grave the stakes had become. We made solemn vows to protect his legacy at all costs, and I alone knew how great those costs might become. Thoughts of the walking dead haunted us as we went about our morning. Eventually, we would have to deal with the teacher's disciples.
Here comes Pete.
This attitude flies directly in the face of the Romans. The Romans lay with their mothers. Indeed. What are you doing here? You draw attention to us. Mary, it's over.
No.
We will wait until the Sabbath is over, and then we return to Galilee.
How can you say that? Do not let him down. You can't.
We just want to be fishermen again.
It was clear that we were on our own. The council members of the Sanhedrin were impotent leaders in an occupied Israel. We had little respect for them, and it showed.
Again and again, you insult my authority! You will.
I would offer to wash your feet, but only your ass got dirty.
You are nothing but prostitutes! You sleep with faith!
Oh, dear, you are a hypocrite. You sleep with prostitutes. All of you. We're not leaving.
I will deal with you! I will have you stoned!
They left us and promptly complained to their Roman overlords that we had some seditious scheme planned. By late afternoon, we discovered that the Sanhedrin was able to convince the Romans to send a guard to keep an eye on us. All we could do was wait to see how they might threaten us. We were 3 women alone, and they were men.
Get up!
It was the officers that approached our fire. They felt it was their privilege to take trophies. They recognized Salome as a prostitute. She was brave for us again and cunningly manipulated their jealousies of each other. It's fortuitous for Mother Mary and me that their captain felt slighted. But dear Salome was not so fortunate. The Romans, unaware of the danger, spent their night drinking, gambling, and fornicating with each other out in the darkness. But the undead came, and the soldiers' dedication to hedonism was their undoing. By the time word came of the impending attack,
Who's dead? Guys!
they were already overrun, and too drunk to do much about it. Those Roman soldiers stood their ground and never discovered what we had. The walking dead could only be scared off with fire. They could only watch in horror as they paid gruesomely for not making that discovery. Couldn't risk the walking dead getting into the tomb and at the body of the teacher. We'd suffer what we must to keep that from happening. So we made a hasty plan to force them off a cliff into a deep ravine.
The fire saved us.
With Mother Mary and Salome's bait, I frightened them with fire. We prayed that it might work, and by some miracle it did.
We have to check the tomb.
We made our way back to the tomb with apprehension of what may have happened to the body of the teacher.
Mary is gone! He's have to tell the disciples. No, we have to tell the disciples. We have to tell them.
After they left, the reality of our failure was overwhelming. When word got out, the teacher's legacy would be destroyed. Lost. I thought it was over. Yet the truth can be even more horrific and devastating. The teacher was one of them. I had to do the unthinkable. I'd sworn to protect his legacy at all costs. I only had a few minutes before Mother Mary and Salome would return with the disciples, and my mind returned to the cliff. I never planned what I would say when they found the tomb empty.
Where's the teacher? Who opened the tomb?
I was in shock, but I never lied.
Speak!
He was walking.
They heard what they wanted to hear.
Saying, what is she saying? He's alive? Who's alive?
He's been seen? What's going on?
They saw what they wanted to see.
He's been seen walking.
He's been seen walking? Oh my God! He's alive as a miracle.
He's alive?
It's a miracle.
Where did he go?
We have to tell the others. What did you do? We have to tell the others he's alive.
They went and told others,
What are we gonna
and the story spread.
He's alive. He's
Where's he
been
at?
walking.
I have seen the accounts that have been written in the years since his death, and they are mostly true.